At this time, we want to welcome to the stage an esteemed group of men, all with ties to the San Francisco Bay Area, and all of whom are synonymous with championships in sports and in life. And first of all, I want you to welcome 16-year NBA veteran Bill Cartwright. And also longtime 49ers, Warriors, and San Quentin chaplain, Earl Smith. We're also hoping that the former Warriors center, Festus Ezeli, will be joining us soon. He, of course, won a championship with the Warriors, so hopefully he'll be here soon. But I want to talk to these two men right now. Thank you for joining us, brothers.
Thank you.
And do we have video? We'll start with some video.
Wow.
Okay. That, of course, is the great Bill Cartwright. All right. First of all, I want to do a hardware inventory with you guys because you have won a lot of championships. So, Bill, first of all, with you, how many championships did you win with the Bulls?
Okay, 3 as a player and 2 as a coach.
Okay, so 5. Wow. That's great. That is fantastic. And Earl, I think you have a plethora of rings because you've been with the Warriors and the 49ers. So how many do you have?
Okay, I have 4 Warrior rings and 1 49er ring, and the rest of those are just sort of somebody else took them and stole them from me.
All right, Bill, of course, you're best known for your years of playing with the Bulls, but you also led the University of San Francisco Dons to 3 NCAA tournament appearances in the 1970s. So tell us about your time there with the Dons and why this area is so important to you.
Well, the Dons have always represented really good basketball since 1949 when they won the NIT. Great teams for the Russell years on down through the 60s. So USF has always represented great basketball. I was fortunate when I was there, great coach, Bob Gaylord. Played with a guy by the name of One for Boys, James Hardy, Marlon Redmond, Chubby Cox, all those guys went on to be NBA players. So it was just a really great time, special time to be just part of that tradition that has always been carried on at USF.
And Earl, you've had a very interesting career journey, all here in California. You currently serve as chaplain, as I said, for the Warriors and the 49ers. But way back in 1983, you started as a chaplain, the youngest chaplain ever in San Quentin. And that must have been incredible. What was that journey like, especially being so young when you started it?
It was very interesting to get into a prison and realize that a lot of those guys were my friends, first of all. And because I realized that they were my friends, the thing I had was, don't make it too friendly. You know, yet at the same time, every day was a learning day for me because I was just a kid.
Yeah. Were you scared?
No, I felt safer in there than I did on the streets.
Oh. All right, Bill, let's get back to championships. You are a part of one of the greatest dynasties in the history of sports. You won, as you said, your first 3 championships with the Bulls. What was that like to be a part of history like that? And when it was the first three-peat since Bill Russell had done it with the Celtics.
Well, I was very fortunate because I did play for the Knicks for 9 years. Yep. So after you've played in New York, you've been tested physically and mentally. So when I came to Chicago, nothing was going to bother me, and I was fortunate. We had a great owner with Jerry Reinsdorf. We had a great GM with Jerry Krause. Jerry Krause brought Phil Jackson to the coaching staff. So when Phil took over, guys like Tex Winter, Johnny Bach, we were able to have a foundation of a great team We happened to have the best player in the league. And after 2 years, it took us to overcome the dreaded Detroit Pistons. We were ready to rock and roll. So it was just a great journey to be able to go through that. I was the old guy on the team. I think I was like 31 or 32. So we had such a young team. We were able to keep those guys and build off of those guys. So it was a special time.
Yeah, you mentioned you had a pretty good teammate by the name of Michael Jordan. So what was it like to play with him? I'm sure you have some great stories, so share all of them with us here.
You know, it is funny though. Everybody wants to hear Michael Jordan stories, and I can't blame them. But I've had probably almost 130 teammates over 16 years. Bernard King, Earl, maybe you heard of those guys. Oh, yeah. Patrick Ewing, Mark Jackson, Kenny Walker. So many great experiences. But as a kid, this is what you got to understand about me, is that I loved my guys that I watched on TV. So I loved Kareem, I loved Wilt, I loved Jerry West. I had an opportunity to meet those guys. I had a chance to play against Artis Gilmore when I was in high school. Those guys are my heroes. The rest of those guys are just young punks to me. So no respect, they're just young guys. So unfortunately, Michael fits in with that category.
I was going to ask you, I think the question that is on everybody's mind, I don't know if I should. I like to scoot over one chair before I do. Who's the GOAT? Michael Jordan, LeBron James, or Kareem, or somebody else?
Well, yeah, they're all big guys. Let's start. Let me help you. We're going to start with Kareem for obvious reasons. This guy won in championship, high school, college, and NBA. So everywhere he's gone. Now, Bill Russell, this guy, whatever team he's on, that's where you should be on because you're going to win a championship. Yeah. And the other guy is Wilt. Look, they had to change the rules for this guy when he played. Can you imagine that? You got a sport, you got to change the rules? So who's the GOAT? Those three guys. Those three guys. There'll never be anything close to those three guys ever again. Those were obviously three legendary centers, and the center position has changed entirely in the NBA now. How do you feel about that? What positions? Are there any positions in the NBA?
It's a bunch of shooters out there now, 7-footer shooting.
Everybody's a shooter. Where's John Stockton? Where's Bob Cousy? There's no passers. There's no position players. Where's the rebounders? Come on, what is going on out there? If you could tell me that, you've done a lot.
Well, that is great stuff. It is positionless basketball.
Positionless basketball. And what is this Globetrotter offense they're running too?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I talked to Kareem once about this, and he said if he was coming up today, he would play like Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like he would be outside and, dribbling and passing and all that stuff. So it's a different day and age. I should have known you were going to go with centers as the GOAT, but I'm not mad at you because those are awesome players.
Well, you shouldn't be.
All right, Earl, let's get to you. You've been the chaplain, as we said, for many championship teams. But you've also, in addition to serving in these high places, you've served in, as we said, San Quentin. And what is the common, we're dealing with human beings wherever you're at, whether it's an NBA arena or San Quentin. What is that common human element that you have seen in men across these various settings?
Well, I think in professional sports, as well as in detention ministry, you have guys that come from the largest states also have the largest prisons. And the largest prison systems, the counties that feed those systems are also the same states that feed professional sports. So they're very similar. The thing that one lacks is coaching, mentorship, and the accountability that goes with the gifts God has given you. So I believe that one of the biggest things that guys have to do is have accountability. In prison, we have something called AIR, accountability, integrity, and responsibility. And they don't want you to talk about those things in prison, but those are the things that help you prepare to leave. And in professional sports, those are the things that keep you there, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. All right, finally, Bill, in addition to being an NBA champion, you are now an author, and your book is available in the back. Please support Bill by buying this book. It's called Living Life at the Center. You want to give us a quick synopsis of that?
Well, yeah, I want to do a couple of things. One thing, I want to thank Pastor Joe Bryant for welcoming me here. Pastor Joe is awesome. I'm here because of him. And my wife's here, Sherry. Stand up. She's going to hate it, but I'll make her do it anyway. Go ahead. There it is. Go ahead. All right. So my wife of 45 years, so if you can imagine. I know, she's got to be a little, want to stay around me that long. But yeah, Living Life at the Center, it's my autobiography. It really traces back to my life, how I grew up, my parents, my family. I always talk about this. Unfortunately, I don't have a horror story as a family. I had great parents, 6 sisters, so I was really tested. So somebody's got to find this guy. He's late.
It has been an amazing weekend, but it's a lot of stuff going on. I came from another panel to this panel. I'm sorry, y'all. Hey, y'all.
But hang on now. We're talking about my book. My book's for sale. Right out in the lobby.
Bill, what's the book called?
Grab a copy.
What's the book called?
Living Life at the Center.
Living Life at the Center. That's
there
beautiful.
You go. Carolyn, where's Carolyn Moss? She understands that.
Yeah.
So it's just my life's journey and how really I've been guided everywhere I've gone through my life. I've never, I was really drawn to USF. I've never looked for a job. Got drafted by the Knicks, traded to the Bulls, led to Seattle. I got led back into coaching. And just how, by being led, has brought me full circle back to USF. So I think it's a special book, represents who I am. Pick it up, everybody. Enjoy it.
Yes.
Back to you now.
Yes, that's great. That is great. Yeah, so Festus, welcome.
I just snuck in. Don't mind me, y'all.
NBA champion, and it's great to see you and great to have you here. You have one of the great quotes that I've seen on ESPN. You said when you were young, your parents told you you were an unusual child. So explain to us kind of what they meant, and was it a positive thing?
Oh, man. For one, I think it's really important the words you speak into your children. And since I was young, my mom always told me I was special. Now, you could take that positive or negative, but my mom told me that I could do anything I put my mind to. And initially, my goal was to be a doctor. They put all their eggs in the Festus basket, and they sent me to the United States. And at 14 years old, I came here, no idea what I could do. And they sent me to live with my uncle. So I'm a young kid coming to the United States with I didn't really know what was ahead of me. And my uncle introduced me to the game of basketball. And at that point, whenever you start doing something, you're terrible at it. And then 15 years old, I tried to play, and they told me I wasn't any good. Scored my first basket against my own team because I didn't know the rules. But it's so important in those moments because those words that my mom said, being an unusual child, being special, being able to do whatever I wanted to do, those words came in those moments. And I always say God has been with me my whole life because every time I felt like I wanted to quit, I wanted to give up, I always had somebody come in, a stranger come in and just give me a little bit of boost when I needed it. And that's been the unusual part of my life.
That's incredible. What a journey. I mean, to go from starting to play at 14 and, like you said, not playing well initially to playing on what also became, I talked to Bill about him being on one of the greatest dynasties ever with the Bulls. And you were there at the start of another great dynasty, of course, the Golden State Warriors. So what was that like playing on that team and Bill wouldn't really give me any stories about the Bulls. So why don't you give me some about the Warriors?
The stories about the, is that the unwritten code? We can't talk about the locker room?
You can talk a little bit.
Okay, all right. I got to get the okay from the OG, y'all, all right? You know, so many moments I can think about. I think about the first time I ever met Steph. You know, and this time he was going through a lot of ankle injuries. And I tell you about my story, but I think it's so important that you understand that I've seen this happen in so many different ways. People who weren't the likely heroes becoming superheroes. Steph had years of ankle injuries and not playing on the court. And he had maybe a little bit of a bright light in the NCAA tournament. But the work that he put in every day, I tell the story about the first day of practice. And everybody says they work hard. But I remember showing up to the gym because I wanted to, the way I made it to the NBA is by working. I was a workhorse. I wasn't the talented guy. I was the guy that worked hard to be half as good as everybody else. So I had to work twice as hard. And I go to the gym at 7 o'clock, practice at 11. I'm like, okay, maybe I could get my workout in before everybody else because it's the first day. I got to get a good first impression. And Steph is in there at 6 in the morning. He's already drenched. He's been working the whole time. And over the course of this conversation, he says he wants to be great. And every day in practice, I saw this guy do this over and over and over and over. Good game, bad game. He showed up the same way, got a routine. I saw this guy make 77 threes in practice before Mark Jackson at the time said, this is the greatest shooter of all time. Both he and Klay Thompson, the greatest backcourt duo of all time. And everybody laughed. And kind of like my story, if you took a snapshot of me at 14, 15 years old, the kid that couldn't make layups, that couldn't dribble the ball, you would say, well, it's not possible. There's so many greats that came before him. How can you say that this is the greatest shooter? This is actually blasphemous. I was there. Everybody was killing him. And now there's no doubt about it, right? Well, sometimes you have to believe in other people's belief in you until your belief kicks in.
That's fantastic. That's a great story. And let's give it up for Festus Ezeli, Earl Smith, and Bill Cartwright. Thank you, brothers. Thank you. Excellent.